Good morning, everybody. This is exciting. This is my first webcast, and my husband is my assistant. Anyways, we're gonna jump right in based on the fact that we had a little technical difficulties. It's really wonderful to be a part of this program. Really, I'd like to share two ideas with you today around true empowerment. Where we come from, and I'm saying the bottom line is that true empowerment really is when we are realizing our own greatness and standing for the greatness of others. So, who are we really? Is a question that I'd like to explore and for us to really look at. Now, my most favorite quote is by Marianne Williamson, and it says, "Our worst fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, which most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be gorgeous, talented, brilliant, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God, and your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. This is my favorite part. We were born to manifest the glory of God within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in every one of us. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, presence automatically liberates others. So you're a child of God, and your playing small does not serve the world. So when we remember who we are, that is where there's true empowerment. So let's look at it. We're children of God. We have a common heritage because we're all children of God. It's not just in some of us, it is in every one of us. None is better or worse than the other. We're all connected. So when we're coming from that place, we can really recognize that we can let go judgment. We can let go the artificial barriers between ourselves, recognizing that we share a common heritage. We're all spiritual beings, meaning there's a spirit part of us, and then there's the ego persona part of us. And then we have a opportunity when we realize that, to know that we can always act, anything is possible because we are powerful beyond measure when we tap into our spirit and come from our spirit, come from love, really connect with God and really connect with source. So we're born to manifest the glory of God. This is why we're here, to manifest the glory of God. That's possibility. All things, fulfillment, love, joy, abundance. That's why we are here. So true empowerment, I say, is really just being true to who we really are, tapping into who we really are, and ensuring that our beliefs, our behaviors, and our beliefs, behaviors, and actions are aligned with who we really are. They're aligned with who we really are. As human beings, we have a choice. We can come from ego, or we can come from our spirit. In each moment, we can be connected, get present, and come from spirit, or we can be coming from ego, almost like an automatic mode when we're coming from ego. When we're coming from our ego, what is important to us is that survival is important. Looking good is important. When we're coming from ego, we're driven by fear. When we're coming from ego, we're relying on our own strength, the strength of physical and the material. As opposed to when we're coming from spirit, we're going to come from love. We are driven by love. We are standing in faith. We're connected to a higher source, a higher power, all connected. So we really have a choice in each moment where we come from. Once we become conscious of it, because oftentimes the ego is really on automatic and we're just responding automatically. When we're coming from ego, we are often, we either fight, flight, freeze, we get stuck, there's suffering, there's pain when we're coming from ego. When we're coming from spirit, that is not present because we understand that we're all connected and we are safe, we're connected to source. So we have a choice to come from ego in each moment or come from spirit. I want to share the story with you about, in terms of, in my own experience, a breakthrough experience that I had. So when I was growing up, I was molested as a child. And I had this story about myself that I was Jezebel, because how is it that I'm being it is because my a relative, an older gentleman, but he was married. So what is, I felt like as a gentleman, I felt to myself, I wasn't conscious of it, but I said to myself, I realized that I was worthy. It was not worthy. I was living inside that paradigm, coming from that way of thinking about myself, that I was unworthy. When I later in life, much later in life, I did a seminar called the Landmark Forum. And I got in the Landmark Forum, you sit and you just take a look at who you're being and, what paradigm are you operating in. And I got to see that I was operating in a paradigm that said I was unworthy and unworthy of having a wholesome relationship. And when I looked back in my life, I was about what, 30 whole. When I looked back on my life, I saw everything made sense. All the decisions that I made about relationships that I pursued that didn't really work for me, and relationships that I walked away from because I really just felt that person was really, I was not worthy of pursuing a relationship with that person who shared my values and that kind of thing. And I just didn't have that. But everything made sense when I recognized the paradigm that I was living in. And that's why I'm so passionate about us realizing, recognizing what paradigm we're living our lives inside of, and recognizing that we have a choice, that we can come from spirit or we can come from ego. When I come from spirit, I'm remembering that I'm a child of God. I want to manifest the glory of God. And that's really what helped me to replace that thinking about being unworthy with thinking that, listen, Donna, you're a child of God. I want to manifest the glory. And of course, when I got that breakthrough, when I had an understanding, then thereafter it was wonderful. I mean, I really got a breakthrough in terms of relationships and all of that. So it is, that's why I really offer this. I like to share this, because it's very important for us to just recognize where we're coming from. And sometimes we, as women in leadership, we may feel like we have to put down that side of ourselves that is connected and nurturing and oneness and all of that. But I tell you, that is really what makes a difference in the long run in terms of really true empowerment for yourself and for others. So further down in my presentation, I share with you about when you're coming from ego, the kind of feelings that are dominant, or when you're coming from spirit, the feelings that are dominant. I contrast that, and so you'll have that. I hope you'll have access to that. Then when you're coming from ego, the behaviors that are present. When I'm coming from ego, what I want to do is defend myself. I want to be right. I will blame others. I feel like a victim, that kind of thing. When I come from my spirit, then I know we're all connected. And I can start to see and look and see the greatness in myself and the greatness of you and of others. I can see beyond appearances when I come from spirit. When I come from ego, I believe about myself. My beliefs about myself normally would be like, what I'm defined by what I have, my accomplishments, how I look, that kind of thing, my reputation. When I'm coming from ego, that's how I see myself. But when I come from spirit, I see myself as a spiritual being having a human experience with the power to choose, powerful beyond measure, 100% responsible to make a difference. Because that's what I'm here for, to manifest the glory of God. That's when I'm coming from spirit. That's how I hold myself, and that's where I come from. Beliefs about others. When I'm coming from ego, I believe I can see people as a threat, or I see people as someone I can blame, people I can blame, or I can see people as a nuisance, like a hindrance to me achieving my objectives. When I come from spirit, I really see that. I remember that we're all the same, none better, none less. We see each other. I see us that we're all the same. We all have the same needs and desires, hopes and fears. I can look beneath the appearances and recognize that we all have greatness within, and speak to your greatness and stand for my own greatness. When I come from spirit, I recognize that I can really be really connected. I get my connection with each person. So bottom line is that we get to choose in each moment where we're going to come from. As I said, the ego is like automatic. So it's a matter of us building a practice of becoming conscious of where you're coming from in each moment. Am I coming from love and spirit, or am I coming from fear and ego? We get to choose. We have the power to choose. So this is true empowerment, I say, is really standing for your greatness and the greatness of others. knowing that we are all connected. We are all human beings, spiritual beings having a human experience, and we can look beyond. So in closing, I'd like to share, I'm sure a lot of you know this little story, but I just want to remind you about it because it reinforces the fact that we get to choose. An old Cherokee chief is teaching his grandson about life. A fight is going on inside me, he said to the boy. It is a terrible fight, and it is between two wolves. One is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, self-doubt, and ego. The other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on inside you and inside every other person too. Take a moment to stay conscious of that. The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, which wolf will? The old chief simply replied, the one you feed. So I really just encourage everybody to become conscious, continue to be conscious and heighten your awareness of where you're coming from in each moment. Are you coming from love or are you coming from fear and ego? Choose, get quiet and choose to stand for your own greatness and the greatness of others. Thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in this webcast.